Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. I'll be getting into Genesis chapter 26 study in this video. And before I get started, I'll go ahead and do the Lord's Prayer as I normally do. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our debt, as we forgive those in debt to us. And Lord, lead us not into temptation, but instead deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom of power and glory, Lord, forever and ever. Amen. So, I've changed up my scenario, my whole little office space. So I've moved some things around, so it may look different than some of the previous videos, but I still got the same setup going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and move into Genesis 26. Let me see, make sure I get this going, and I'll read it. Make sure, yep. Okay. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, into Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him, and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham the father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister. For he feared to say, She is my wife, lest he and the men of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sported with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And how saidst thou, She is my sister? And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltiness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sowed in that land, and received in the same year an hundredfold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks, and possession of herds, and great store of servants. And the Philistines envied him, for all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well, and strove for that also. And he also called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from thence, and digged another well, and for that they strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord had made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared unto him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he builded an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Hazuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto him, Wherefore come ye to me? seeing ye hate me and have sent me away from you? And they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. And we said, let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee. Thou wilt do us no hurt, and we have not touched thee. And as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace, thou art now the blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one to another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, we have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashmath the daughter of Elon the Hittite, which were a grief of mind unto Isaac and to Rebekah. So there you have it. That was chapter 26 in its entirety. And so let me grab my little book here and kind of read an outline of what went down, because there was kind of a bit of some almost what some people would call like deja vu, where you get into this. It's kind of the same story. We just kind of came across this, didn't we? Where was when we came across Abimelech and Abraham? Abimelech takes off with Sarah, and when was that? That was quite a while ago. I want to say that was chapter 22, 23. Let's find out. Let me take a look. Abimelech and Abraham make a covenant way back in Genesis 21. So we see Genesis 21, verse 22, and it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Pichol, the chief captain, spake unto Abraham, and this is in Genesis 2, and therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me. So this was way back in Genesis 21. So actually, chapter 20 is where we came across Abimelech taking off with Sarah, and we had Abraham and Sarah saying that they were brother and sister, and that's why Abimelech took off with them and took off with her, thinking that he could make her his wife. And so this is almost the exact same story that we're coming across here in 26. Excuse me. So we just dealt with this in chapter 20. Now we're dealing again with it in chapter 26, and that's why I'm kind of saying like this, what some people would call deja vu, this concept of it. But basically, we've got Isaac going to Gerar now, and then Isaac is now growing rich. So just kind of the same thing where when Abraham took off, and he lied about his wife, and he had a pretty wife, and Abimelech wanted to take her, and then he made Abraham kind of gave a bunch of money and gave a bunch of stuff to Abraham. Now we're seeing it happening to Isaac as well with Rebekah. So that's what's going on here. And let me hold on just 1 second while I grab something. I got other computers all over the place, so I gotta move some pictures over from here to there, or from there to here, I guess you would say. Pictures. And here they are. I'll just go ahead and say copy. Let's go over here. So now I got this coming on over here. I'll move it. But yeah, so that's what's going on here. I already forgot. Isaac is going there to Gerar. He runs into Abimelech. He does the exact same thing that his father did. He said, hey, this is my sister. This time, though, it isn't necessarily the case. Whereas with Abraham and Sarah, they were actually half siblings. But nonetheless, with Isaac now, we're not going to see that. We're going to see that this is Rebekah who comes from Nahor, which is quite a ways down. So let me see if I can't find these pictures now that I've moved them. Let's see. So let me take a look at what we've got here. And I'm going to turn this into view. Let's go to the list of small icons, medium icons. That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, we're looking at this map. I'm going to go ahead and change over to this. So let's actually go here. Throw me up there. And you can see this here picture. I don't want to see this here picture. And where are we? We're at Abraham is over here, and Nahor is the one. Oh, Nahor doesn't show, but Nahor come out from Nahor. That's where Rebekah is. So they're actually more they're more distant than Abraham and Sarah were, which were both who both shared Terah as a father. So now we see that they're further down the line, and so this is But let's go ahead and I'll get into it now and see what's going on. So there's another famine, and it was beside the first famine. That was the days of Abraham. So that's why Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines. So Isaac's coming out here, and he's going to that same king. And remember, this guy, Abimelech, had made, a covenant with Abraham so that they wouldn't treat each other falsely, right? I mean, that was what it was. It would not, that covenant, like I said, way back in Genesis 20. I mean, let me go back to see, and let me see when I can find Genesis 20 over here. Genesis 20, they made that covenant. Actually 21, they make a covenant. 21, 22, I'll go ahead and jump to 21 to show you into verse 22 down here. They came to pass that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain, came, now do not deal falsely with me, nor my son, nor my son's son. And Abraham said, I swear. And then they have issues about a well, right? Here's this well. And then they go ahead and they deal with this well situation, right? And they make a covenant saying that, and here's that Beersheba again, that same spot, Beersheba, and they said, oh, okay, we know that you bought this well from us. So this was way back in 21. And so now we're into 26, and what's going on here? We're seeing that he goes, the Lord appears unto, he's going into this Abimelech. He's like, hey, what happened to these wells? So we're gonna find out what happened to these wells over here, right? And he's up there, but for some reason it's obviously pretty bad, and he decides. God tells him, "Do not go into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of." And so obviously he's going up here. That's why he's going here, right? Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee. So I'm gonna be with you, and I'm gonna bless you, and unto your seed. So this is now God talking to Isaac. Not Abraham. This is God talking to Isaac now. And so I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear. So he's telling them, hey, now Isaac is responsible for this covenant. Now he's the one, he's that king that Abraham was. Now it's Isaac has replaced him in just everyday life. That's what's going on now. And God has come to him, and God is now he's going to make his seed to multiply the stars of heaven. So he's telling him, and I will give unto these seed all these countries. So he's telling them, your people are going to take all the land around you. And meanwhile, keep in mind this land that we're talking about. Let me grab some of these pictures here. This land that we're talking about is still, still with this map. This is still a pretty good map of what's going on here. He's real small. You got to keep in mind they're real small people. They're not, this map is huge when you think about size and humans they were walking up and down this, and it took them months and days and a year to get all the way from here to Jordan. So it took them a while, and they were busy. They were walking up and down. That's what they were doing their lifetime. Not like us in our day and age. We got a bunch of cars and vehicles and airplanes, buses and so forth. So we can cover long distances. So we could cover this whole area in probably only a few hours. But still, we're very small when you think about it. We could cover it in hours with the car, but a car is still very tiny compared to the overall aspect of the land. And we have television, we have pictures, we've got a lot of benefits that these guys did not have, that Isaac did not have. So that's why God is telling them, I'm going to give all your lands, all these nations. There's a bunch of different nations, there's a bunch of different countries. That's what we're kind of seeing here is that. And if we take a look at this one right here, ancient. Which one's the map? Canaanite tribes, for example. All of these were different tribes filled with a bunch of different people. And wow, I'm on this computer and this is Windows. My other one is a Linux laptop, but that's neither here nor there. So here's what's going on. Look at all these different Philistines. So these are these Philistines that we're coming across, and that's Gerar right there. So you can see that Gerar was probably that Philistine. It's part of the, Gerar was part of it right there at the time. And then there's, like I said, Hivites, Perizzite, the Hebron, the Amorites, the Hittites. And we're going to see that later on, he gets Esau gets married to one of these Hittites or some of these Hittites down at the bottom of the chapter at the end of chapter 26. So you're seeing a lot of things going on here. And yeah, I'm going to open with, let's see, and why am I opening it with photo gallery? I guess that's the one I need to open it with. There it is. So you can see it, all these different people, all these different nations, and they're real small and they're on foot, keep in mind. So they're, all of these are like different countries to them because of how long it actually takes them to get there. Just like us, now it takes us, me being in Colorado, for example, to get down to Mexico or something would take me, I don't know, 20-some hours driving a vehicle, straight driving a vehicle. I could probably get there in maybe 6 on a plane, 6 hours, maybe 4 or 5, 6 hours in a plane, something like that. But even then, it's not entirely like it's difficult, but that's how long it takes to get to another country. Same thing with Canada. It would probably be the same thing with Canada. But these guys, I mean, they could walk from Hebron for a whole day and probably, not be to any of these other places. They could walk. That's how long they might be able to get onto. I don't, they have like mules and they have ox and they have camels apparently, but even on those things, they might travel a whole day and just get over to this next little area, and they might get only 30 miles out in a whole day. Maybe if they're pushing it, maybe on an animal, they might get 50 miles. But that's even, like I said, that's really, really pushing it. On foot, they might get anywhere from 10 to 30 miles at best, and that's on foot running, and they'd be super tired probably. It'd be really moving fast. They wouldn't have anything much to eat. And then plus you got to think they didn't have stores like we do. We could go, there's fast foods, there's grocery stores, there's all kinds of things that we have. We go to, a corner store and pick up something to eat if you need to. If you're hungry, it wasn't the same case with them. It would have been wild country, wild land everywhere. So they would have had to hunt and gather for food. If they don't pack their food, they'd have to pack their food, and they'd have to pack all that food. So you keep in mind now they're moving with all this. The further they have to go, the more supplies they have to take, and the longer and the slower they become, and the longer it becomes, the longer the whole trip becomes. So it's not like us today. It was a much different means of transportation, and you really have to get that kind of in your mindset. So that's why it's a big deal that Isaac is really going up there to, he's dealing with this guy. We had a like a really good pact with you guys. We had a covenant with you guys. and you guys were going to treat us well, and we were going to treat you guys well, and we were going to treat your sons well, and you were going to treat our sons well. And so what's going on, right? So God tells them, and here's that's why it's important that there's a famine. So it's in the whole land. Keep in mind it's in the whole land. So they might be living here, but all of this land right here, keep in mind, would be like wild country. All of this was wild territory, so people lived in close proximity to each other, but out in the wild, who knows what you'd come across? You might come across groups of people that were just living out in the land without any property, without any housing. They were just living in tents, perhaps. That's how Isaac lived, in tents, remember? Or they might come across cities that had big structures in them, had rock structures, had buildings where people were living in, or so forth. Or you might just come across a bunch of animals. You might come across a herd of animals, maybe, and just wild, So it was real crazy. Or sometimes you might come across farms, a farming community, or a big giant farm that somebody was taking care of. But it was all wild. It wasn't like what we know today. It was a lot more wild then. And so the whole land was going through famine. That means, like I said, as they were traveling, if you're traveling, you have to take your own supplies, or you got to live off of the surrounding area as you're going. Because you could think about it, you could just take a tent and just on yourself. You might be, say you were by yourself, a man like myself, by myself. I might be on a horse or a mule or something, pack animal of some sort, and I might have like like a tent rolled up, a rolled up tent, and maybe some clothes, just enough to put on the animal, and I might take off with just a meal enough for a day or two, enough meal for a day or two. And so as I'm traveling, I that first day I might travel, I might be walking for a few hours, then I'd stop and I'd look around for something to eat, or anytime I might come across something like, hey, look, there's an apple tree, there's a fruit tree of some sort. I go grab that fruit, grab some fruit that gives me some more, whatever I can carry. Now I've got some food for the next day. The next day I'm traveling, oh, look, there's a rabbit or there's a deer. I'm going to go get down real quick. I'll go hunt it and I'll go kill this deer and take all this time to skin a deer and cook the deer and whatever. And then so I've eaten that for that day. But look how much time I had to spend just to stop and do all of that. And then now that I've got it, I probably can't eat this whole deer by myself. So what am I gonna do? Just leave it, or I'm gonna cook it real, kind of burn it or cook it up and wrap it up and take it like it's jerky for maybe the next day or for a few more days, and I might just leave the carcass behind for wild animals or something. So you see what's going on here is it's really bad. Now, say there is, that's how you be doing it. That's how you be traveling. But now, say for example, if there's a famine, well, suddenly you're going out there and that apple tree is dead. You're not finding any deer because the deer are located. They're moving straight to wherever they can find water and food. They're probably close to, they're all just hidden or they're dying themselves. They might be dead too because there's so much famine. You're not finding as much as you're traveling and as you're living in the day-to-day experience. And on top of that, you're far from a farm, perhaps. And even if you did have a farm, that farm only starts producing at certain points of the year, correct? You gotta wait until that comes, and then you gotta take it, and then you gotta store it. So basically, if you're traveling, you're already living on that storage of whatever it is that you've stored up from your home farm. So it's really different way of life than what we know, because we, like I said, have so many different things, supermarkets, vehicles, and so forth. So life is very different for us than it was for them. Um, but nonetheless, God is in this world then as He is now. He was in this world then as He is now, and He's gonna be in this world in the future. He is, He was, and He will to He is to come. I mean, He was, He is, and He is to come. So that's what He is. God is like that. So that's how we're seeing. That's what we're seeing here is that even though the people are changing, and they're just changing over one little generation, it's only one generation. I mean, had they been close um, country nations, they would have seen each other. Abimelech probably would have known about uh, Isaac. He probably would have known that, hey, this Rebekah girl's not your sister, because I knew Abraham and I knew all his kids, and that's not your sister. He would have known, but either way, that's what's going on, because God is reaffirming to Isaac, I'm going to keep that same promise, even though, watch, humans themselves are not going to be able to keep their promises. So that's really what God is showing him here. He's showing him that, look at other people can't keep their promises. Human from human cannot keep their promise. But me, God, he's telling Isaac, I can do that. I will keep my promise to you and Abraham. You get what I'm saying? That's what he's telling him. And he's showing him that. And he's showing us too as well. That's the whole thing, is he's showing us people that can, now we're so many years out in the future, we've got so much intelligence, so much knowledge stored up on our fingertips. Like I said, look at what I've got on this internet. I can go Google anything I want. I could see things happening across the world. Oh, and I could do so many things like that. And it's all possible nowadays. But it wasn't possible back then. And God is showing us through this history and through how things were and our knowledge of understanding how they lived and how we lived and how it's different and how it's the same and so forth. God is showing us that he can keep his promises when men cannot. And men have to use God in order to know from one generation to the next generation. So that's why he's in Gerar. Keep in mind, so now he's in this place, Gerar. Here you can see some of these Philistines are somewhere in that area. And Abraham's, obviously, he's afraid of the exact same situation that his father was afraid of, right? He's saying that people are going to steal my wife. That's what's going to happen. People are going to kill me and take my wife. That's what kind of people are around here. And you can kind of tell that. I mean, if you can't tell that, sometimes, there's a lot of people with marriage problems. And obviously, I've mentioned that in other videos too. But say, for example, you and your wife hang around with a group of friends, and it comes to find out, every time you leave the room, every time you leave the table for dinner or whatever, you're all out at dinner. Every time you leave the table, there's this other guy that just flirting with your wife. He's getting real sexual with her, talking about her appearance, talking about parts of her body, talking about, so forth. They're laughing. So, if you can't notice that, then that's, that you're going to be a person that is going to have marital problems, because you're not seeing when your wife is flirting with other men, or vice versa. Same thing with women. If you got a husband that's constantly flirting with other women and you just don't even recognize it, then that's that, you're gonna be one of those women that your husband cheats on you, and you didn't see it coming. And that's what's gonna end up. That's how it is. And that's why Isaac definitely saw this kind of behavior, more than likely. Just like Abraham saw this kind of behavior. They saw it coming out of these people, and they were afraid of getting killed. So, because these guys would kill you and say, oh, look, I'm better than your husband. I killed your husband, here, now you're my wife. And they would basically just physically rape and molest these women and keep them in harems. And that's kind of what we see coming out of Egypt. And we see it, obviously coming out of these Philistines. We remember when Abimelech, when in one of those chapters too, when they approved Abimelech, and we came across that Abimelech already had a wife. That's when, that was chapter 21, when God opens up their wombs again after he finds out about Sarah, and he gives Sarah back. Once again, chapter 20, chapter 20, verse 17. Let's see. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. So Abimelech already had a wife, and he was trying to take another wife in the form of Sarah. He was just outright taking her. So that's why they were just collecting women. That was what appears to be the power of a king, was their ability to collect women. It seems like, on top of not just having an army at their back, they were able to just run around there and take women as they saw fit, and they would kill the husbands if you wouldn't let me take your wife. That's me. I'm gonna go take your wife, because Well, you can't have my wife. Well, then I'm going to kill you. Now I can take your wife because your wife is a widow. That was kind of the mentality of these quote unquote kings. And so that's why even at this point, you've got Isaac saying the exact same thing. That's what the people were asking about his wife. She must have been pretty. She was fair to look upon. That's what the servant saw in one of those other previous chapters, back in chapter 25, I guess. Yeah. No, chapter 24, when the servant comes across her, he sees that she's very pretty. And so, of course, here it is again, because she was fair to look upon. So they're going to kill him. And so it comes to pass, when he had been there a long time, Abimelech comes out, looks at, and sees him. Behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. So Abimelech catches Isaac and Rebekah flirting and probably kissing and so forth, sporting with Rebekah's wife. They're being a couple. And it's probably something like that, where it's obvious that you guys are kissing or touching each other. You guys are clearly not brother and sister. And that's what he tells him. And that's why Abimelech comes and he calls at him and says, look, she's your wife. And why did you tell me she's your sister? So he's having the exact same problem with Isaac. Abimelech is having the same problem with Isaac that he had with Abraham. And he's telling him, and so then, of course, that's what Isaac's telling him the exact same thing, because look at all these people. I'm afraid you guys are going to kill me. And then that's why Abimelech says, look, is he even remembering? One of my people might have lied with thy wife and should have bought. So you got another situation where they're butting heads again, and it's a complication between their two societies, their two people. These are two different people, groups of households, and they're clearly, one group of household is clearly afraid of the other household killing them to take the wives, to take the women. They're obviously afraid that you're going to come kill us and take the women. And on top of that, the other guy is saying, well, some of them might just sleep with her. You got to be careful. They might have slept with her. Or, so it's a whole concept of, now we even have like the concept of what's going on with these marriages. What kind of marriages are Abimelech's people having, and what kind of marriages are Abraham's people having? You get what I'm saying? So that's what's really going on here. And we see that clearly. Abraham had one wife, and it was his wife that for some reason decided it might be an okay thing to do this thing with the Egyptian woman. So this idea of an adoption, that's where she came. That was Sarah that came up with this concept. So Sarah must have seen it coming from the other women, probably from. So just the same way we see Abraham afraid of the men killing him to take his wife, we've got Sarah was probably seeing these other women giving other women to their husband to steal the children for some reason, to adopt the children. And obviously when it came to pass that Sarah tried to do that, she obviously didn't like what happened. She just figured out, you know what, that's not for me. It was a bad idea. And that's the situation with Hagar. So now we're probably, you know what I'm saying? So that's how we're seeing different things going on. So now they're over here. What kind of, Abimelech clearly, though, is taking other wives, remember? So he had his own wife, and he still took Sarah. So Abraham, we didn't see really doing that. Abraham didn't do that. Abraham was given Hagar because of, something that they tried to do that didn't really work out for them. And if you're listening to me in the way I'm speaking of it, and you're married today and you're having problems with your marriage, and sometimes these marriage things have to do with sex and physical relationships with each other, and there's a whole lifestyle out there where people want to swing and do these these perverted things that have been going on for all of eternity, since apparently back then. They're clearly, wives thought it was okay to give another woman to their husband, and men thought it was okay to just take women and sleep with them without having some sort of proper marriage. This is what God is showing us, that and we will learn later on in the Bible that obviously marriage is between man and woman, one man and one woman, and it's for a lifetime. It's a lifetime bond. It's not necessarily eternal, but it is a lifetime. And it is said that we're not going to be given in marriage, after the resurrection and so forth. But in this lifetime, we're acting as one person with whoever you're married and whoever you're sleeping with and having sex with. You're one person. So if you're running around and sleeping with a bunch of different people, you're acting like you're getting a bunch of different weird things going on. You're spiritually anyway, spiritually and physically too. I mean, you're gonna have some STDs running around eventually when you're sleeping around with people that don't have the same hygiene, or people that have different types of hygienes and so forth. Um, but never, nonetheless, that's what we see. That's what's kind of appearing here, is that Abimelech and his people have no problem in collecting wives and sleeping around, and probably even sleeping around without anything to do with marriage. Just sleeping. Some guy might have just slept with her, might have just taken her, slept with her, thinking it was okay. And you would have brought guiltiness. You'd have made us feel bad that, hey, he just raped her. He just, because that's probably what the men did. I just took it and I just found her, and I just took her, and she fought with me a little bit, whatever. And then I let her go afterwards, because that's what, could have very well been the case with some of the men in those days. That's what they were doing. They just found one, took one, whether she liked it or not. And then if, obviously if she was a fighter, he might probably just throw her out the next day, like whatever. Or who knows if they even had rights that he couldn't have just, one of these guys could have just killed her. And, if it was our people, I wouldn't have cared. But now it's your person. And now we're like, oh, we're sorry. That's what it means by the guiltiness. You might have brought guiltiness upon us. Something could have happened, because clearly your men act different than our men, and your women act different than our women. That's what's kind of going on here. So that's why he's telling all of his people, and that's why we're getting more clarification kind of why this is happening, because it was the same thing that happened with Abraham. He had to tell all his people, don't touch this man's wife or his wife, or I'm gonna kill you. That's me. It's Abimelech putting up his force right there, saying. So he had to go back and tell all his people, hey, these guys are special. Don't just touch his wife. Don't just kill this guy. Don't just fight with this guy. Don't just kill his woman. Don't just take his men. Don't just take his women. You can't just do that, because they're not like that. They're not like, we do it. We do it. That's how these kind of outsiders are. These crazy people that are outside of God, people that don't have God. That's how they act. They're shrewd like that, is what they call it. But they'll do all kinds of things, and they'll be mean to each other. It's perfectly okay to be mean with themselves, but this guy was different, because he was telling it. And he was basically, telling them, "You're gonna kill me for my wife," and I could see it. And they were kind of the type of people that didn't want to admit that that's the kind of stuff that they did, but they knew that they did it. They just didn't like hearing it or something, apparently. But so of course they protect him. He tells them, don't, they're protected now, just like Abraham was protected. So Isaac was in that land, and you see that wherever he sowed, he farmed in that land. The Lord blessed him. You see, that same year he received 100-fold, and he waxed great and went forward. So he was just getting really strong, really powerful right there in Gerar. It was good for him. God was taking care of him. And he had flocks, and he had herds, and he had a whole bunch of servants. And you see now that the Philistines envied him. So he's living like a much different lifestyle than these Philistines living right there in Gerar. So, Abimelech is protecting him, and all the people, live in a certain kind of lifestyle over there, and they're seeing this other guy that lives a much different lifestyle, yet this guy's protected by the king, even though they themselves probably aren't necessarily protected by the king as much as they're, uh, pushed around by the king or threatened by the king. This guy's special. So, and not on top of that, he's doing really good. There's a famine going on, and nonetheless, he's still, for some reason, when he farms, everything's going great for him. When we're farming, there's a famine. It's not so easy for us for some reason, and you're seeing kind of like that curse from that curse of the earth, the curse of the, that was put upon Cain's line, the line of Cain. So you're kind of seeing that for whatever reason, and God said he wouldn't curse it anymore for the sake of man, but nonetheless he did curse it, and it was still cursed, the earth. And that's why, it's the earth is still cursed, and so they're having a hard time. Meanwhile, God is with Isaac, and everything in his land is being real nice, and it's real coming out 100-fold. and hundredfold. He's still farming really well. So that's why eventually, and and his flocks are doing really well. His herds are doing really well. The Philistines are just envious of him. That's where it leads to this enviousness. And then right, so you see again, of course, now the Philistines are just outright disobeying their covenant. They're just breaking the covenant that they had made with Abraham. And it says, so after they envied him for whatever reason, they decide, let's try to get rid of him. And they close up the wells. They stopped them and filled them with the earth. So that's what they did. They got these wells, so the water wells, and this is important because we all know how important water is. Water is more important than food because you'll die without water sooner than you'll die without food. So that's the case of that. And and so they stopped up the well, and that's why Abimelech just tells him, "Get out of here. You're too strong for us. You're much stronger than we are. We're afraid of you at this point. You're getting so big. I'm protecting you. My own people are against me now for protecting you. They're envious. They don't like you. They want me to hurt you. They want me to go and take from you, but I already told you I wouldn't do that. And I'm noted. I remember that dream that I had about your father. Your father was going to destroy me. I remember all of that. This would have been Abimelech. And now you're much stronger than we are too. You're just doing. You're getting too powerful. Go from us. Get out of here." Is what he's not attacking him. He's not really being extremely forceful, but he's probably being mean. He's being angry. He's probably being, loud or hefty with his words when so it's definitely something he's telling them, get out. You're causing problems with your good luck, with your success. Your success is causing us problems, is what's really going on here. And so that's why Isaac leaves, and that's why he pinches. He goes to it calls it the Valley of Gerar. So he leaves the main territory of Gerar, and he probably goes out to a valley somewhere off to once again, like I said, it shows us in these maps, and we might think of, oh, what could possibly be around here in this area, right? Because we've got cars and we've got airplanes and we can move far distances no problem, but in these days, all these people congregated in a much smaller area. So they probably went over a few hills down where they couldn't really see each other every day. They couldn't really, it was kind of a few days walks out, instead of being much closer to the town where they were seeing each other probably every day, every other day. They were seeing each other as they walked around and as they went about doing their own stuff, or they were at least able to maybe see each other every day. This time, maybe walked a few weeks, maybe he's a week or two away. You got to walk a week or two to get there now, but it's still in that same area. And it's still in something called the Valley of Gerar. And so that's why he goes up and he finds some of these wells that Abraham, his father, had. So he finds the wells, and that's what he does is he 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 goes ahead and he fills up these wells. I mean, he redigs the wells. He finds them where they had been dug, and he found, it seemed clearly they'd been filled back up, so he dug them back out. And so he's still kind of in that area, and he's fixing up these wells that Abimelech's people clearly did not. I mean, they were the ones that came, and they were the ones that made the covenant with with Abraham, and now they're the same people that are completely disobeying. They're breaking the covenants. So they're breaking covenants here. And so here we are now. These people out in the wild, out in the valley, are also seeing Isaac. So he's away from, So when it says Gerar, this was probably like a country of Gerar. Here we're seeing it as a little town, but Gerar was probably like a big area. And he was probably pushing into this Philistine area, So now he's probably in a different little area, but it's still kind of called this Gerar or whatever it is. So that's why I keep saying this name, even though it kind of says he's moving around. So now he's got the herdmen, and now they're saying, look, the water's ours. And they called the name of the well Isaac because they strove with him. So Isaac must mean something about striving between, So he's having problems even with the same wells that Abraham did. So these were his own wells. Like, how are you gonna, he's showing that how, Isaac is really seeing, well, I thought I was gonna, he's seeing God, and God's telling, I thought I was going to inherit this land, right? I thought I inherited this land. And here I am on the same land that my father Abraham built some wells, and there's other people already on the land saying, no, that's our well, that's our well. And so, and he's trying to say, no, I built that well, I dug that well. Go to, like, go talk to Abimelech. He saw my father gave him some sheep, those the lambs or whatever it was. He got the lambs, he paid them, so it was supposed to be proof. Go talk to Abimelech. That's ours. That's Abraham's well. That's Isaac's well, his sons. And so, but of course, that's what's going on. But of course, instead of causing too much problems, he goes and he digs a different well. Fine, you guys can have it. I'm going to dig a different well. Isaac dug a different well. But of course, the people over there, now you got another name called Sitnah. So there's probably another place called Sitnah that we might be able to find somewhere in some of these maps. I don't see it anywhere here, but it would have probably just been a little area somewhere around there. But of course, these wells would have probably been big focal points of a bunch of people, where a bunch of people would come to that well and congregated around that well and built and lived around that well. But of course, they strive for that one too. So people are still just fighting him for all this stuff. And so he goes and he digs another one, right? And for that one, they strove not. So he finally got one that was kind of, he finally found some area that nobody was saying, hey, that's our water. And so nobody's coming against him. He builds a well. They're having an easy time there. And they call it Rehoboth. And so that's where it says, for now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. So Isaac goes ahead and he, like I said, this is supposed to be his people's land eventually. He's going to inherit all of this land. But here he is striving with all these people, and he's just moving to a little place to be peaceful instead of attacking them and destroying them and killing them and going against them and so forth. He's just going about it peacefully is what Isaac is doing. And he went up thence to Beersheba. So he goes up to Beersheba, and then, of course, here's another, God appears to him at that night. So it's another appearance, and this appearance is to Isaac this time. And he's telling him, I am the God of your father, Abraham, your father. And he's telling him again, fear not. So every time there's an appearance, God is telling him, like, don't be afraid, because something's scary about this appearance. And he's telling him, so remember when we saw it with Abraham, he told Abraham, fear not, for I am your, what did he say? I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. Remember, he told him that back in Genesis 15. 15, right after Abraham acted like a king, and right after he meets with Melchizedek. So here it is again. This would be something like Melchizedek. And he's telling them, fear not, I am with you, and will bless you, and multiply your seed for my servant Abraham's sake. So just like Abraham was told, so what did he was told? He's, I'm your shield and your exceeding great reward. Well, Isaac, he's telling them, I am with you, and I will bless you, and I will multiply your seed for Abraham's sake. And so once again, we're seeing this where God is making a promise, and he is keeping his promise. Whereas the man Abimelech, Isaac is seeing, Abimelech did not keep the promise at all. Couldn't keep the covenant. He had all kinds of proof, right? He had the lambs, he had this, he had that, he had the wells, so forth. They weren't keeping their covenant for nothing. God, however, was keeping his covenant. He's telling them, I'm with you. I'm blessing you, and I'm going to multiply your seed. And he's saying this during an appearance. That means that's proof right there that he's with him. He is with him. He's with him right there that night, and he's with them always, is what he's telling him. Even though he may not physically see him, God is showing and revealing his powers to Isaac for Abraham's sake. So there, Isaac, right there again in Beersheba. We get another in Beersheba now. This is, once again, I'm pretty sure they had already done one. He had done one. I don't have to go back again. I know I just read it recently, but I'm already trying to remember how many. He made one, remember, in Shechem. Oh, no, then he made one in Bethel and Ai. Remember, he made one right there. Then he goes to Egypt. He comes back, fights. He saves Lot. comes back, meets Melchizedek, kind of lives right there. But Beersheba is down here by this kind of Beer Laharoy. It's a little bit more similar over there. Let me see. This is photo gallery. Which one is this one then? This is Windows. Okay, so that's my problem. So, but Beersheba's down here, and so now Isaac is making an altar in Beersheba because he saw God. He saw that, that appearance. And so they built an altar there because he's down, right? He's down in Beersheba. They build an altar there and they dig another well. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar and Jesus with one of his friends and Pichol, the chief captain of his army. And so Abimelech is going with this other guy, and and Abimelech is talking about Hazuzath is his friends, and Pichol is the chief captain of his army, right? So Abimelech goes after Isaac left for a while, he goes out to Isaac again, and he goes to Isaac. The three of them go, and they're saying, and they go to him, and Isaac's saying, Why have you come to me? Wherefore come ye to me, seeing that you hate me? And he said, Why are you guys here? I thought y'all guys hated me. That's why y'all sent me away, isn't it? And they're like, they're like, apologize. We certainly saw that Lord was with you. And now let there be an oath between us, between even you and us, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou will do us no hurt, as we have not touched you, and as we have done nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. And so they're coming back and they're finally redoing their oath. They're finally, even after everything's said and done, we see that they're coming and making an oath here with Abraham, a covenant with Abraham. Something they probably should have done a while back because they had done it with his father, and they should have known better that they had told his father that they would do it. So now they're finally coming out here. After God had seen him, after God is coming out, after God has shown himself, clearly God was working now through Abimelech for Isaac's sake. And so they make a covenant and they're saying, we're not going to hurt you. Please don't hurt us. We're not trying to hurt you. And so that's why he made them a feast, and they did so. They ate and they drank, and they had a good, little thing that they do. And so they rose up and they made so they made the covenant, and God and Isaac sends them away, and he sends in peace. So you see Isaac is still, even though he knows that, well, they made a covenant with my father, they really didn't keep it that well, but now they're coming back in faith, and they're making the covenant again. So that's a good idea, right? So they might have been a little late, but it was something. And so this is Isaac keeping the peace, and that's why they come back. And Isaac had told them, look, and they tell him all this everything is changing, even though things were really kind of going bad. God makes an appearance, and after God makes an appearance, suddenly things start going well. They find the water again. They're still in that, that's where it's kind of making, that's where they were in that Beersheba when this was happening. And then all of a sudden it jumps into Esau taking wives at the way in. The last couple is also Esau saying that he takes Judith, the daughter of Beri, and Bashmeth, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. So they see Esau as acting just like these other guys, who obviously these other guys from Abimelech's camp have been nothing but kind of not the greatest help. They've been problems. They've caused a little, it's been some strenuous, a little bit of strife, nothing violent out of, not when there was Abraham, nothing came violent, even though things could have gotten violent. Same thing happened with Isaac. Things could have gotten a lot more, violent, but they weren't so violent. But it's this other group of people that's really the concern here. These other group, the Philistines, Abimelech's camp, and how they act towards women and how they act towards men, and how they are clearly not, they're not so particular about enforcing their covenants. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on. And then we see that at the end, Esau is kind of acting just like them now. Now he's got two wives, and he's taking these Hittite women, these Hittites from over here, and and they become, that's why it says, which are a grief of mind unto Isaac and Rebekah. So that's why it says that they become a grief of mind. It's a problem. Esau is acting just like these people, and he's taking these people, and he's married, and he's just, instead of realizing how they're kind of um not the greatest people, that they're not the greatest people that could possibly be. They're not having the greatest luck with them. They're not having the greatest experiences with them. And they're kind of making it rough for them, honestly. That's what's kind of really going on. And Esau's going to be just like them, is what it seems like. And it's a grief to both of them. So yeah, that's pretty much chapter 26 there. It's basically now Isaac is in the land, and we see that God is keeping his promise to Abraham from just one lifetime ago. It was just one generation ago. But Abimelech's finding it a little bit difficult, and really he needs a little bit of what's the word? He needs a little bit of convincing, and that convincing comes in the form of, oh wow, look look how strong Isaac is. Isaac, just like Abraham, could probably destroy us. And that's what Abimelech's army, his general, the chief commander of his army, they were probably like, yeah, like, let's be honest, if we went to war with Abraham, he's going to destroy us. Remember, he had that dream. Abimelech had that dream, and he saw that happening to him back in chapter 20 of Genesis, or 2021. But and he's got the same kind of concept with now Isaac's the same way. So at first he was kind of pushing Isaac around, saying like, and then he told him, get out of here, just get out of here. And then he comes back and says, I'm sorry, but don't hurt us, we won't hurt you. So it's the same kind of problem that Abraham had. It's really nothing. It's not really godly. These people aren't necessarily the greatest people of keeping their promises. And, Abraham and Isaac are the ones keeping peace because they've got God on their hand. And if you remember, they got Melchizedek is what is going on here. Melchizedek was both the king of righteousness and the king of peace. So they're making peace because that's what their king does, and they're being righteous because that's what their king does. And so that's what's really going on here, and that's what chapter 26 is about. So Philistines aren't really keeping their covenant, except because of the fear of being destroyed ultimately. But God is keeping his promise, and he's proving, and he's there with Isaac, and he's helping Isaac, he's blessing Isaac, and he's multiplying Isaac. And so that's what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and end here, and I'll go ahead and say, for anyone who may be watching, please like and subscribe to this channel, and please, God bless you, and I pray that we bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.